they didn't at the start. They didn't take into account the traffic. The very first torchbearers delayed by half an hour, weren't they? Because they couldn't get out the where was it? Where did it start? Stoke-on-Trent. Not Stoke-on-Trent. Stoke Mandeville. Yeah. But that was already got half an hour behind then, and then I just don't think they took into account like who was carrying the torch and stuff like that. So it wasn't necessarily too many torchbearers, but because it was the Paralympic relay, it was a lot. It was disabled people as well. So obviously we had to get them, loading them onto the buses. And getting them off the bus and stuff like that. So took a lot longer, didn't it?
Yeah, the main thing really, I'd say like the main thing really with the working on the relay is you've got to have initiative and be able to think on your feet at all times, because things can change. There could be a collision further ahead, and you've got to be able to get around that. Or like when we say with the Paralympic flame, because it was delayed that much, someone, I think it might have been Steve, just came up with a quick bright idea of instead of every single one of them carrying their own torch with the flame on, and doing the kiss individually, they'll just have one torch and they'll just pass the torch to each other. So instead of stopping and lighting every now and then, they'll just keep going. And so that picked up so much time, and you've got to enjoy it. You got to have fun, haven't you, really? And like you got to have humour as well involved, because you are with people. We were only with people for 70 days, and I think Sochi, is it 150 or something? Yeah, how? I think it's over 150 days, I think, and you're gonna be with people. 70, yeah.
So you were all the way through
from day one, yeah. And you live in people's back pockets, and like you have the same roommate for the whole thing. So you've got to have a really good relationship with people. And some people, every now and then, they just said to everyone, I want a time out. I just want to be on my own, just to bring my family, bring my friends. But for someone like me, who's like an extrovert, I like to be with people. I like to share my experiences, so I always didn't want to be on my own.
It does get very stressful, like, especially everyone within the team. Like you get the managers that can get stressed, so you got to step back from them. But I can remember the first week when people were still trying to understand their roles fully, like because obviously no one had ever done this before. It was in Plymouth, weren't we? And it was just we weren't getting done until easily 12 o'clock at night, because we still had to assemble all the torches, plan our route for the next day, where we're going to go. So it's just about trying to remain organised and it is keeping you cool and trying to get along with people. And if you see they're getting stressed, you just take a step back, really. But
We advertised the opportunity of working on the torch relay, and we had a huge number of applicants from all the sports students, and then we interviewed a number, and these are the very best students that we could find of this year. It was the only university who did this was Sheffield Hallam. With no other university in the country was involved in it. So I think they might have had we might have had a couple from Manchester, but in terms of we provided 10 out of they needed 12 people to do this, and we provided 10 out of the 12, I think it was, or something. So we interviewed them over a 2-day period, and we said things like, you will be sharing a room with one person. How are you going to cope with that? And they all are fine. And as it was interesting, because we were thinking they don't realise how difficult this is going to be. So, but we were very happy that we picked the very best people. So I think you need to say that we got through this very strong selection process to be at the point. Yeah.
Okay, my name's Tom Gardner. I volunteered on London 2012 for torchbearer operations as a torchbearer shuttle host, and I just really enjoyed it.
Yep, my name's Aaron Harrison. I did the same role as torchbearer shuttle host, working for 70 days along the Olympic torch relay. Yep, both students at Sheffield Hallam University. We study PE and youth sport, and it's a course that relates to becoming a PE teacher, but this was something that's a bit different for us. It's a once in a lifetime experience for us, so we had to take it up, really.
I'm Josh Turton. I worked on the tour services team for the torch relay, so different to Tom and Aaron. So basically the planning and logistics side of it, rather than being the face of the relay, like more behind the scenes, so like travelling from place to place, moving a lot of stuff related to the relays. But it was a different experience as a work placement for the university.
So, as a torchbearer shuttle host, we had to make up the Olympic torches for the runners to use. So, like assemble them. So, put the gas canisters in, check that they worked. So, when the runners eventually ran with them, they were all working. Start off with the basic day.
We had to manage the bus operation. Make sure we had to manage the bus operation. Make sure the buses were stocked. They had food. They had water, and like. Anoraks, what do you call them? Waterproof jackets. So in case it rained, they had blankets if it was cold.
Well, basically, when the torchbearer ran with the torch, they would all say all these people in this room were running with the torch. We would meet them on the bus. We'd get you all on the bus and then drop you off at your different points in which you were running at. Yeah. So. Say if you was just running across this building, we'll drop you off outside, and then when the torch eventually came, you'd have your torch lit, and then you'd head off. So, as part of our role as well, we had to plan the route. So we had to make sure we knew where we were going. So, obviously, being across the whole of the country, we had to use Google Maps and tell the bus drivers where to go. And so it was, So we had quite a bit of responsibility in that to ensure that, because if obviously we didn't get the torchbearers there on time, then
How did you reconcile?
There's a convoy that goes along with the torch, so you've got in the convoy the torchbearer, the police, and then all the sponsors' vehicles. So they follow the route exactly, and there's a team of bikers, like police bikesmen, and they would always go in advance, about 10 minutes in advance, wasn't it? 10-12 minutes, yeah. So, and they would close all the roads off, and then they would come meet you and be like, the torch is 10 minutes away, so get your first torchbearer ready.
Yeah, we had to do a torchbearer briefing as well, which just explained the whole day to them. So we'd introduce them. Yeah, we introduced them. So let's just say, for example, you guys, like he said before, you guys are my torchbearers. If you were meeting in this location, I would come in with my uniform on, so everyone knows that I mean business, and then I would give a briefing. So I would tell you exactly what you're going to do for that day. Yeah, putting you at ease, settling your nerves, making sure you knew exactly where you were running as well. That was a very important thing. It was 300 metres, yeah, and then they'd do the torchbearer kiss, and then when they'd finished, they'd get on the pickup shuttle. Okay, so we'd do a briefing, and then the briefing was really the best time for us, really, to have our little moment on the relay. That was our pinnacle bit, really, because we was able to make it fun, make it entertaining, make it exciting, and you had to be really enthusiastic. Think about it, 70 days on the road, that was a lot for us, and you've got to be excited, because even though it might have been day 39 or 45 for us, it was day one for them every day. So you had to make that just as exciting as your day one was. So you had to be enthusiastic, you had to be jumping, bouncing, everything. So that was probably the best bit, really. Plus you also got to talk to the torchbearers, you got to meet them and find out why they were nominated and what their inspirational stories were. And sometimes I cried, you was upset at some of the stories of inspiration, and sometimes you were happy at things that they'd achieved. We had a lot of responsibility, really. I remember being on the first day, I was so nervous. I was frightened. Like, we were thrown in the deep end a little bit because we weren't really aware of the scale. I think on the first day there was an estimated 6 million watching. Imagine that on your first day of work. Like, I was frightened. And just little things like, I'd panic. Is my bus facing the right way? Is it facing the right way? Because if it wasn't, then that would be an absolute nightmare.
Because the relay will come one way and your bus is obviously facing the other way, so you're pointing in the wrong direction, and just little things like that, really.
Yeah.
But eventually, after the 70 days, anyway, you become accustomed to making sure you've got all the right number of torches, you've got all the right numbers of bottles of water for all the people to use. But so, like on a bus, overall there was 8,000 torchbearers, but each day there was approximately 100, wasn't there?
Yeah.
About 100. So on each of us had an individual bus, so there was 8 of us, and we'd all be on different shuttle buses throughout the day. So I maybe start at 5 o'clock in the morning. Tom might be on at 6 o'clock at night.
You've got to be prepared for early starts.
Yeah.
How long was the shift?
I'd say almost 10, 12 hours some days, won't they? Because it doesn't just stop when you've finished, you've collected all your torchbearers, you've got to take them back to their original collection point, then you've got to drive to the next hotel, which is getting ready for the next day ahead, then you've got to prepare all the torches for the next day, you've got to plan your route. So it's tiring, but we got into a system eventually, didn't we, where
early mornings and late nights.
yeah, but I managed to cope on some 6-7 hours sleep eventually. And you just 5 o'clock, I think it got to a point where 6:30 was a lay-in for us, wasn't it, in the morning? So, I mean, well, yeah, one every 6, wasn't it?
Have a day off because, like, you didn't really have a day off because you were that involved in it and you enjoyed it that much because you knew you were doing something inspirational. You did whatever you could to help someone else out. Yeah. So, you know, you could even just like, you utilised your day off really. Like, you'd probably get up a little bit later, so you'd have a bit of a lie-in to try and get a little bit of sleep back. But then with the rest of your day, you'd either work with the other low-cog teams, helping them out, or you'd work with the sponsors and just see the different side of the relay. Because the more sides you could see, the better. And sometimes people would, on their days off, would come and work with me. Because, like, for example, Josh, he was behind the scenes, and they did a fantastic job. And if it wasn't for them, you know, it wouldn't have happened, the relay, you know, with the work that they put in. But they never got to see the fun side, and they never got to see the crowds waving and people smiling and cheering. So on his day off, he'd come with me, and he'd get to see that, and he'd really enjoy it. So you've got to be a team. You've got to look after each other, pick each other up, but just enjoy it really, because it's such an amazing experience. I can't express it anymore, really.
Part of tour services. So basically, what we did, we went from hotel to hotel. So we'd have myself and another lad, Petter. We had ridiculously early starts along with these. So they'd probably leave. I did 6 weeks because I had some family problems, so I couldn't do the full relay. But I did 6 weeks, and the early starts, the first week, I think the latest we got up was 4:30. That was the latest for the first week, but then we worked out a system. It was more of trial and error really, working out a system, because obviously with over 350 people on the torch relay through the different sponsors, Locog, Samsung, Coke, Lloyd's, they had to get the bags and luggage from one place to another, so they had to plan and prepare how we'd move the bags. So it was parking with where the vehicles would go, all the activation vehicles, which turned into a bit of a nightmare, and then basically going from one hotel, settling up at one hotel, so making sure all the bills were paid, people hadn't left things behind, people weren't left behind. We had a few incidents where people were left behind and we had to go back and pick them up. But then driving on... No, just a bit staff. So like, say Tom and Aaron had their day off and they'd stayed, and if people overslept that had the day off, it'd be their own job to try and go back to get to the next place. But because we knew each other, it was more of a, can you come and get us? Yeah, go on then, we'll come and pick you up. But you had to like make sure that everything was in the right place when you got to the hotel. You were like the face of the relay to the hotel before the rest of the crew came in. So before the front house team, if you like, came in, you had to present yourselves to the. So we had late nights as well. So like. How many kilometers did you? So it varied. Like for myself as behind the scenes, we just went from A to B. So take the Sheffield leg for example. It went from Leeds to Sheffield in the day, which is it's about 50 miles, which is 75 kilometres, something like that. All right. All right, if we're going to be smart. 80 kilometres, just for Aaron. Okay, so then that was our... So we went in a straight line, but straight from A to B. But the torch shuttle buses went on, what was it, average 120 miles a day, torch bearing? Yeah, so it was about So do the maths on that one, Aaron. 120 miles per day. So that's like going in and out of like down.
On the actual relay, they don't run the full length. So we'll maybe go from different villages to villages. So there'll be 3 torchbearers that would run through that village. Then we would go in convoy mode where all the torchbearers get on the bus and then we drive to the next place, and then there may be like 5 torchbearers at the next place, or else 8,000 miles would have been quite a long time to do a full relay. Yeah, but I think mentioned something like the sponsors earlier. I think there's quite a bit of pressure from them as well, especially with the amount of money they put into the relay from Coca-Cola, Samsung and Lloyds, and they had their own individual torchbearers as well that we had to Bank of Scotland when we were in Scotland, but there's a lot of pressure from them to ensure that their torchbearers enjoyed it as much as well. But especially when we went to London, and there's a lot of corporate members, especially even from the British Olympic Association, and there's a few from the other worldwide associations as well. So it's, I don't know. I think there's quite a bit of pressure on us to deliver, really, wasn't there? Yeah. Especially.
This is terrible. It probably make you cry. This one. This guy was he was in the army, and he was having a bit of downtime, so he went to America, and he was a pilot, light aircraft, just him on his own flying around, and he had a cockpit fire. So the flames were that much, he knew he had to do a crash landing. But as he was about to do his crash landing, the flames engulfed the whole cabin, the whole cockpit, and he couldn't even see his hands on the controls. So he decided to open the canopy, climb out onto the wing and jump off. And he reckons the plane was about 15 feet in the air when he jumped off. And he's only walking now because of pioneering surgery. But he doesn't have any ears, he doesn't have a nose, he's that severely burnt. It was awful. And like, I could have cried when he told me that story and told everybody that. But the reason why, you're not crying because you feel sorry for him, you're crying because what an inspirational character he is, because he's now teaching kids expedition skills in like the Alps and outdoor skills. And he said it took him 2 years to get over the scars and the facial disfiguration and that, but now he's doing something for his community. And he's always got like, you know, he says he doesn't like people not asking him, he wants people to ask him, and I think that's great. And you know, that inspired me, because I might wake up in the morning and hit my toe against the bathroom door and I think my world's ended. You know what I mean? I think my world's come to an end. And someone like that, yeah, exactly. And someone like that has done something amazing, and he's not given up. He could just live in his house and never come out for the rest of his life, but he chooses not to. You know, that's, you know, fantastic. And, you know, other ones for me was how there was a young, it was an older gentleman, and he had one leg, because when he was a young lad he was playing around in an old army base, and he stood on a landmine and it blew his leg off. So ever since then he's raised awareness, especially in Africa, about the dangers of landmines and things like that. So it's affected him, so he's thought, rather than give up, I'm going to make sure other people don't make the same mistakes as I did, things like that. And you know,
there's a well-known one in the UK was Ben Parkinson, wasn't there, from Doncaster. He was a soldier in Afghanistan, and I think he got hit by an IED or something, an IED, and when he ran with the flame, he'd literally only just been able to walk. I think he'd only recovered 3 months ago or so, wasn't it? And he was just still learning to walk. And it took him 20 minutes to run with the flame, but the whole of Doncaster, there must have been 3,000-4,000 people just behind him, like cheering his name, willing him on, and it does, yeah. It's still, I think he's recently got an OBE from the Queen as well. I saw him on the news and everything. So, but it's things like that's what the relay's for, and it's all about the relay getting to different people and different locations in the UK where the people can't get to London to come see the Olympics. It's almost bringing the Olympics to them.
Yeah, it's like, but then you get other stories like somebody raising money to buy their local woodland. So then, rather than a company going there and chopping it down, so they're a local hero, you know, so celebrating your country's local heroes, and it does make you feel very proud of your nation. And you know, the Olympics, you could say the Olympics is about the Olympians, but each and every single one of them torchbearers to me were Olympians to me, because they made the games. If it wasn't for them, as I used to say to my torchbearers, no flame, no game. because if there isn't a flame, then there isn't a game. So each and every one of them torchbearers did their bit, not for themselves. They weren't carrying it for themselves. They were carrying it for the people they represent, and that's why they were put there. That's why they were voted there. So if it weren't for them doing their 300-metre bit, the final torchbearer in that stadium would have had a big old stretch to try and get it in the cauldron. So everyone did their bit, and it was such an amazing thing, because in this country we've had like economic climates, things like that going down the pan, and you know, there's a lot of times being British you think, you know, you don't really want to show your national pride at times because you don't want to upset other people, but the amount of times I saw people coming out with Union Jacks, celebrating being British and being proud, and you know, coming out and just, you know, saying yes, this is what we're doing, it was just fantastic to see all that, and it did bring a tear to your eye at some of the sights you saw, and it did make you feel real proud to be British. Yeah, well, with regards to famous people, some lovely people, like you'd think, you know, they're going to be some people you'd think they're going to be pulling like a bit of a hissy fit, or like being a bit you know, looking down on you, yeah, a bit showbiz, you know what I mean, like. But then some of them were just, they surprised you how nice they were and kind. Like, yeah, like one of the Hollywood actors, James McAvoy, you know, I knew who he was. He's been in the X-Men films and things like that. I knew exactly who he was. He comes up to me and just goes, "Hello, what's your name?" "I'm James." Like I didn't know. Like, he was just being human. And then some of them, they won't even talk to you. They'll just send their representatives to talk to you. Like, oh, they'll be like, so say it was called Dave or something, like, "Oh, Dave's over there, and if you need to talk to him, you can talk through me." It's like, well, that's not fair, is it really? Because especially like some of the, exactly like Josh says, like, why should they have that chance? And for example, the celebrities, and especially the sporting heroes, they're not only sporting heroes to myself, but to the torchbearers. And if if the torchbearer likes athletics, and there's an Olympian there who, I don't know, ran 100 metres, then they're going to be inspirational to the torchbearer as well. So you need to be able to, as a torchbearer shuttle host, you need to be able to get the celebrities to mix with the torchbearers, because everyone's equal. No one's different. Everyone's equal because they're all carrying the flame, you know? Because when you're carrying the flame, you're the only person in the whole world carrying that. And you should not be separated by anything, race, religion, nothing, not even celebrity status. You're all one person, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say was the lad Pet that was in my team had his first day off. Didier Drogba was carrying the flame, and obviously we're both big football fans. An Olympian, so Steve Redgrave did it as well. Kelly Holmes, all different people, but we went on the bus with the famous people, and the sporting heroes did tend to be they were the inspiration to the torchbearers. The fact that they take the time to go and speak to them. You obviously found that with when they'd go in your meetings and say, obviously they'd introduce themselves, but everybody knew who they were, and then they'd go and find out the stories as to why, say, Joe was carrying the flame because he'd saved the local woodland area, or that soldier that's had his arms and leg blown off by the IED in Afghanistan. But they'd go and sign things, take pictures, and generally just be there. Well, it made their individual experience unique, which I think the difference to the games.
For me, it was. I've got two. You can have one. I've got one for you. You can have Fabrice Mwamba. I've got Ewan Thomas, the British Olympian. He sat on the bus and he just said basically that he didn't know why he was there. He felt really humbled because he said, all I've ever done is run, and all these people, what they've done. He says, why am I here? I've done nothing inspirational except for run and win medals. These people have done fantastic things for other people in the local communities. So he just felt, a lot of them did feel really humbled.
It was a good bunch. It was a very good bunch.
Well, I didn't get to meet as many celebrities being in the tour services, going from place to place, but quite frequently the celebrities that were like with the presenting partner, so your Coke, Samsung, Lloyd's, Bank of Scotland, they did tend to stay in the same hotels, especially as there was the evening celebrations. There was like Labyrinth, Emily Sunday. We tended to meet the people that performed to everybody at the end of the evening quite often. So
Where were you
the final day of the torch relay, we had a bit of a party. The whole of the relay team. Well, we all went to Stratford anyway, and we watched the opening ceremony together in Stratford Hall, wasn't it?
Watched it in the town
So-
hall on the big screen. We didn't get tickets.
No, we weren't allowed tickets. But yeah, so the whole team watched it together. Yeah, but we managed to see the dress rehearsal, which was on the Wednesday. So we managed to get in the stadium and see a few snippets. Yeah.
'Cause if you think, it was very emotional. I remember I did cry. I'm going to admit it. I cried because that flame was like, it felt like it was a party because you had carried it, you had looked after it, and you had inspired people with that, and you'd taken it all over the country, and then to see it run into the stadium, then light up that cauldron, it was really moving, and it was like we saw that flame land in the country from Greece, and then we saw it then light the stadium, and it was just like we did that as a team.
More of a journey
Yeah,
for us,
it was.
wasn't
Yeah, like Aaron says, representing a journey, and then it had come to an end for us until we found out we were on the Paralympics relay as well. And then it was quite moving as well when they turned the flame out because it was sad because it was coming to like the end of an era really, and then. But it wasn't all lost really because then we had the Paralympics, and that was a fantastic experience. It's very similar in some ways to the Olympic torch relay, the Paralympic was, but very different in other ways and challenging. But it was very more intense, yeah, and you had to think on your feet more. Very emotional, but you had to think on your feet. I worked 25-hour shift, 25 hours, and I was tired, I was drained, but because of the torchbearers, they were like superpowers. They like charged you up. They gave you energy each day. It's like Josh was saying, he was up at probably about 5:30 nearly every day. My earliest start was on the Olympic torch relay was 2:30, and I had to brief my torchbearers at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was tired, and like they were tired, but I had to be like the foundation for them to build upon that day. So you've always, one of the tips really is just keep you cool and think that you are representing something.
I think it's easy to become motivated as well. You wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and you're not as excited as you maybe should be, but as soon as you arrive there, you see all the torchbearers. I mean, you get there and the briefing that you give them will maybe start at 5:30, but 50% of them will be there at 4:30 because they're that excited. Like they're always there so early, so you've got to be. Yeah, exactly. You've got to be there to motivate them, and usually because their excitement and everything that feeds onto you, and it just gets you excited as well. Oh, yeah, definitely. You get over that, yeah. Like we said, the first week was very challenging, whilst we were still learning the tricks of the trade. But eventually, we got into a well-run system, didn't we? And it was amazing. So there's 8,000 torchbearers who run with the torch, yeah, and there's 350 crew like who worked on the Olympic torch relay. So that involves us torchbearer hosts, police, sponsors, tour services, the command card, the media. So it was a lot of people.
And everyone had to be fed as well. So.
Yeah, so we had to. I think in Wales, Aberystwyth, we were splitting 10 hotels at one point, weren't we? Which, so organising finding out what hotel you was in and everything like that was it's a challenge in itself.
It was so exciting listening to you. Actually, I really enjoyed it. Clearly, an amazing experience for all of you. How do you think it's changed you as people, both from a personal point of view and in terms of what you might do professionally as well?
Well, it's been an eye-opening experience, an absolutely inspirational experience, and just little goals. Like, I want to run a marathon one day because I've seen that many people tell me they've done it and they've raised so much money for charity. I don't really want to beat myself up, but you do feel like you've done nothing in your life when you talk to these people, and it's changed you so much. Like, professionally, it's changed me so much. Like, I'm no longer like really lazy, because you had to keep to a strict time, and you learn planning skills, and you learn so many skills that are transferable into so many different professions, and it's just like once in a lifetime amazing experience. You just got to enjoy it really, and everyone's so proud of you when you talk to them. And you know, my main goal really when I went on was to make my family proud, and I honestly think I've achieved that, and I think I've achieved making myself proud as well, and improving my confidence. And it's just that even though I'm not working for Local anymore, even just talking to people like yourselves, you are sort of like inspiring them a little bit, and you just sharing your stories. And I think I'm always going to be indebted to that, like the experience that I was given, and I feel like as a way to repay that, like I'll always share my stories and tell people, because I got an experience that was fantastic, and you want to share it with other people, really.
From my point of view, it's certainly like working behind the scenes. Had to be very organised. You had to be able to run to a schedule. Like if we said we're leaving at 6:03, you'd left at 6:03 without it being 5 seconds past. It was, if you weren't there, it'd go without you. So from a professional point of view, you've become very organised. You can manage your time brilliantly. You know, if you're getting up at 4:30 in the morning to be out by 10 to 5, you know you can't spend 20 minutes in the shower. You've got 5 minutes, quick shower, pack and go. You know, so you learn your own limits of what you could and couldn't do, and obviously stretching those to see what you could do, and by the end of it, it's running like clockwork. I'd say it definitely made you, you know, usually when people have a lack of sleep, they turn grumpy, miserable, moody, but if you're those three on a project like that, you stand no chance, because people will just be like, well, I haven't got the time to deal with grumpy, miserable, moody people. But personally, it's definitely opened my eyes to what so many different people have done. Obviously you hear about in the newspapers, person X has raised so much money, they've done this, they've done that, but to actually come face to face with so many different people within a unique story, everybody's story was different. You know, it's made you realise there's so much out there that you can actually do with your life, rather than just being that run-of-the-mill, working 9 to 5. You know, why can't you work 7 till 7 and get up and go, and then go and do something else? You know, these people, especially like Ellie Simmons, you know, she was still at school a couple of years ago. She'd be up at 4:30, go training, to swim, then go to school, then go back to training. And it's like, well, there's me moaning about getting up for school getting up for uni at 9 o'clock. I think the thing with the relay was that it opened the public's eyes, who I know from speaking to a lot of people, their eyes were quite shut regards to the Olympics, and they were very sceptical and unsure as whether it would be a success. And then as the torch relay got started on day one down in at Land's End, it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then by the end of it, obviously, you could say Olympic fever had hit, and everybody knew that, you know, the Olympic torch relay had started the games. It snowballed. Yeah, it started from that first day down in Land's End.
I think for me the best moment was nothing. It's, you know, I had great moments like being on stage at Hyde Park in front of 60 or 70,000 people, you know, and everyone's looking at you, things like that. But for me, it was a bit more humble experience. It was going back home with the torch when we went through my hometown. So hometown of Huddersfield, if you want to check that out. And we went through there, and just to see all your family and friends out there supporting me, plus the torchbearer, obviously, and just seeing the flame, and just to say that, you know, I can always say, and my friends can always say that they know somebody involved who took the Olympic flame through their hometown, you know, and we'll never see it again in our lifetime, the games in London, or Great Britain, ever, I'm pretty sure. So just to say that you're involved in that, and I'm sure, you know, it is a little legacy in yourself, really, because I'm sure my grandkids will say, well, my granddad did this, and they'll show pictures, things like that. And I think that's probably the best experience for me, really, was professionally, but also personally as well. And I think that's a great thing. Yeah, just the memories will last forever. And, you know, me and Aaron, some lads that we met on the relay, who worked with us, they're coming up to see us tomorrow to spend the night with us, and we're gonna go like catch up and things like that, and have a bit of a drink. But you know, that it's just, you've made a family now. You've made another family. It's extended family, and you know, you shared some absolutely amazing experiences. I'm 20 years old.
20.
I'm 21. I'm the old guy, yeah.
Same as Josh, really. The main thing is organisation. Like, if you wasn't organised or prepared, you'd be found out. Like, there's no hiding away. There's no not doing any of your duties, because yeah, it not only impacts you, it impacts people around you as well. So I don't know, not preparing the bus properly for the next day would affect the next person that uses it, because obviously they haven't got the right equipment, and just little things like that. They have a knock-on effect. So I think that's what highlights being a team. Like, eventually, I think, especially after the first week, we all became such a close-knit unit that's what I think one of the main things we got out of it, really. Such a close team that we were. And and if you think about the 350 people that are there, I can't remember anyone arguing, if I'm honest. Considering like we was under each other's skin for 70 days, 24 hours a day, it was quite amazing, really, wasn't it?
For me, watching somebody zip wire off the Tyne Bridge was like being from the distance between me and Aaron, away from somebody jumping off quite an iconic bridge in Newcastle, was different, should we say. It was unique. He's zip wire, so yeah, so the torch attached to him. He was isn't what Bear Grylls. He's a famous like adventurer, explorer, and if you Google it, or YouTube, if you YouTube Bear Grylls zip wiring off the Tyne Bridge, and there was that many people just to see one man, that I think that certainly opened my eyes to, like, wow.
Yeah. So we could. It's like the people who were running were the security team, so the police. They ran with the torchbearer next to, just for security. So in case someone crazy decided to run out and take it, they was there for security. But we were privileged, so we could, if we wanted, to run as well with them, and they were happy to do that because we were very close with the police. You know, we had a good, strong rapport with everybody. So we were privileged, so we could, you know, be out there high-fiving the crowd. Like, you know, that was absolutely amazing. Like, you know, just a young lad from Huddersfield, yeah, just Joe Bloggs, like, from Huddersfield, like, running around high-fiving people in London in the streets, and they're all going crazy. And yeah, policemen are high-fiving. Yeah, and like, it just, I think it did a world of good for like the police as well, because they can have such a negative image, but people were putting their hands out, high-fiving them, and people looked disappointed if you didn't high-five them. They were like, yeah. And you felt like you had to high-five everybody. And just like the torches, when we were transferring them places, they had covers or boxes, but people pretty much knew what they were. And just to see their faces light up when you showed them the flame. I remember when Rosemary and the team came and they showed us the torch for the first time, my eyes lit up and I was like, wow. Because, yeah, it's like, it's just a fantastic feeling just to give that to somebody. And like, you've not got to get complacent, and you've got to be able to, every time you show the torch to people, you've got to be as excited to them as you were when you first saw it, because that's how they feel. And I just remember one instance when I was literally about to leave on the bus with all my torchbearers, and this man and his little son came running up, banging the window, can we see the torch, can we see the torch? And looked at my clock, and I was like, we're going to be late. But I thought, do you know what? He's never going to be able to see this torch ever again or hold it. So if the circumstances is right, if there was 100 people out there, I'd have had to say no, because you can't let each of them. But because there was 2, I said yes.
Like I said earlier, the torch relay was an opportunity for people who couldn't get to the Olympics to have their own bit of London 2012 going through their town or through their city. So it was taking the Olympics to around the UK to people who couldn't necessarily. Yeah, exactly. It's such a
big country.
Yeah.
The fact that you'll be taking the flame. You know,
Is
it Vladivostok? That's miles near Japan. Like, that's nowhere near like Sochi. So
Sochi is 9 time zones away from
yeah.
So we are here
Yeah.
Right, and Vladivostok is on the right hand side.
So when
So this is a 9 time zone. You know.
so when the flame goes near there, that is their Olympic Games. That is their games, and they will forever remember that in their history. So like you've got to be enthusiastic. You've got to be everything you can possibly be. You've got to deliver it every day, even if you're tired. You've just got to be like, you turn into a bit of a superhuman really, and like I remember just like coming home and I was bored when I finished, because you know people don't want to high five you in the street now. I can walk down the street and no one wants high five. Yeah, I don't think I've been on a bus once since I've come back, but I wanted to start talking to everyone on bus, like introducing myself, and like you know little things like that really. Like no one wants to high five me anymore. It's a bit sad, like.
The favourite photograph that I saw is Petter, and he's in bed, and he has the torch, and he's sleeping with the torch. Yeah, sleeping with the torch, and that's my favourite photograph. Yeah.
I think I've heard that it's going to be on a train for quite a number of weeks. Trans-Siberian, yeah, for quite a number of weeks, and you know, like for us, like. I never thought ever that I would travel my own country, because you take it for granted a little bit. You never think I'll travel my own country, but to have done it, you've seen a lot of amazing things. And for those, you know, for the Russians that are going to be traveling their own country, you know, it's going to be amazing for them as well, because there is a lot of diversity in our country, but in Russia there's a lot more as well. Like with the, you know, like you're saying, with Siberia and then like Vladivostok. It's a long way, so there's going to be a lot of differences, and for people to experience the culture and different areas, I think it's going to be an eye-opening experience, and I think it'll inspire them as well. Okay, so
A little bit of a different accent, and how English are you?
well, I'm a Yorkshire lad, so we yeah, you probably don't understand me. But my accent, we tend to drop our words and make words up. So, for example, I wouldn't say in proper English, I would say I'm going to the shop, but I'd say I'm off to the shop.
I'm off to a shop.
Off to the shop. If you're Yorkshire, off to the shop. But if you're proper English, you'd say I'm going to the shop. Things like that. So we tend to drop our words a little bit, but that's just. So it's the best accent, I think.
Mine's not too bad. I'm from Lincolnshire, so Lincoln, but I haven't really got that much of an accent. That's East. Yeah, East Midlands. Yeah, yeah. It's a lot for agricultural area of England.
I'm from Birmingham, so I'm from right in the middle of the country. Probably got the worst accent out of all of us. It's not too bad. It's disappeared since coming to uni. It was horrific when I started. Yeah, but moving around, being in Sheffield and all over the place has got rid of it.
The worst accent is from Liverpool, the Scouser accent. Like you can't understand him. You think it's bad listening to me at times, but you can't really understand. I can't understand him though. Oh yeah, some people say bath, but I say bath, like bath. Yeah, grass or grass, like grass to me.
You do your own accent.
I've lost mine.
Just go on, just put it on.
Brummy accent, so I'll speak a bit road, mate.
That's it. Go on.
Give a sentence.
Yes, give a sentence. But
Joel's the worst.
Joel. Yeah. My name's Josh and I'm from Birmingham. Oh.
okay, so and pronounce it.
It's Buckingham Palace.
Buckingham Palace.
Buckingham Palace. Alright. Yeah, sometimes, moments, sometimes. is this the finishing bit? There's sometimes. We're going to get this right then. There's sometimes you just want to curl up in a ball and cry, to be honest. Because some people are just really rude to you, and you may have made a mistake. And if you make a mistake in something like that, you know, it could be very detrimental. So you've got to be able to, you know, do not let the minority spoil it for the majority, basically. Yeah, it's once in a lifetime experience, and just go out there, have fun, and enjoy it. That's the main message, really, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's